Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah,
You know I love interior design,
me too.
and you guys sent in some amazing stuff about mixing vintage and contemporary decor.
Ooh, I love that.
This isn't just about following trends, it's about like infusing your space with character,
Right.
your own personal history.
Exactly.
I'm really excited to get into this with you today
Yeah, me too.
because it can be really tricky to
Really?
mix those two eras
It can.
without, creating a space that feels chaotic.
Yeah, or like totally mismatched.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we get that right?
Right.
So reading through all the material you guys sent in,
Yeah.
one of the things that came up a lot
Yeah.
was this fear
Mm-hmm.
that one style would kind of take over the entire room.
Right.
So how do we prevent that?
Well, one of the most effective ways I've found
Yeah.
is to establish a cohesive color palette.
Okay.
So think about starting with a neutral base for your walls and like your larger furniture pieces.
Mm.
And that creates this harmonious backdrop that you can then build upon.
So it's like a blank canvas.
Exactly, like a blank canvas.
Okay.
And then you can introduce pops of color and pattern through your vintage and contemporary accents.
So you're not having a room that's screaming vintage or shouting modern.
Right.
You're having like a
More of a conversation.
a subtle conversation between the two.
Right.
I like that.
So for example,
Okay.
imagine a living room with soft gray walls and like a charcoal gray sofa.
Yeah.
And then you can introduce like a vintage rug
Okay.
with a geometric pattern in shades of ochre and teal.
Oh, nice.
And then echo those colors in contemporary wool, throw pillows and artwork.
So you're using those colors to bridge the gap.
Exactly.
That's really helpful.
Right.
And I noticed that a lot of the material you guys sent in
Yeah.
mentioned metallic accents as well,
Mm-hmm.
especially gold as a way to tie vintage and contemporary pieces together.
Yeah, I love that.
What is it about gold that works so well?
I think it's this timeless quality. Gold just transcends time. You know,
Yeah.
it's a classic element
Mhm.
that adds this touch of warmth,
Yeah.
sophistication,
Mhm.
even a little bit of glamour.
Yeah.
Think about how beautifully it works with both like ornate vintage frames and sleek modern light fixtures.
Oh, yeah.
It's just this like common thread that weaves its way through different design eras.
I love that it's a common thread.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that really stuck out to me
Yeah.
was this idea of considering the scale and the proportion of the pieces that you're mixing.
Oh, that's huge.
So like I'm picturing, someone puts this like massive antique armoire
Oh my gosh.
next to a tiny minimalist side table.
Right.
And it just feels off.
Totally off.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're balancing the visual weight of each piece
Right.
and ensure that no single element is like totally overwhelming the others.
Right.
So like that large statement-making vintage piece might need to be paired with smaller, more streamlined modern pieces to create that sense of equilibrium.
It's all about balance.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Like a balancing act.
Yeah.
Styles themselves, but also the way we arrange
Exactly.
and proportion the elements within the space.
It's such a good analogy
Yeah.
because it goes beyond just size and style.
Right.
The sources also talked about
Yeah.
the importance of using like similar textures and materials to create a visual connection between vintage and contemporary pieces.
Okay.
So think about, the warmth of wood,
Mhm.
the sleekness of metal,
Yeah.
the translucency of glass.
Yeah.
These materials can be found in both vintage and modern designs.
Right.
So they act as like a subtle unifying factor.
So if I have a vintage coffee table with those exposed metal legs,
Yeah,
I could echo that metal in like a modern floor lamp.
exactly.
Oh, cool.
Or a sculptural piece.
Okay.
You're creating this subtle visual echo throughout the space.
I like that.
Another great example is reclaimed wood.
Oh, yeah.
It's so versatile.
Yeah.
It bridges the gap between rustic vintage and more refined contemporary styles.
I'm getting so many good ideas already.
Me too.
But we've been talking a lot about finding commonalities
Right.
between the vintage and the contemporary.
Yeah.
What about contrast?
Oh, that's a good point.
Like, is there something to be said for actually embracing
Yeah,
a little bit of that tension?
totally.
Because that could add some excitement
It does.
and personality to a space.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think a well-placed contrast can definitely add like depth and intrigue
Okay.
to a design scheme.
Okay.
And the sources suggest being strategic with your statement pieces.
Okay.
So choosing a statement piece that embodies elements of both vintage and contemporary styles.
So it's not just about picking a piece that wows, but
Yeah.
picking a piece that can tie the whole look together.
Exactly.
Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine a room anchored by a vintage rug
Okay.
with a bold geometric pattern. That same geometric pattern could be echoed in contemporary throw pillows, artwork, or even wallpaper.
So the pattern becomes the recurring motif that connects the old and the new
Exactly.
and creates a sense of harmony.
Yeah.
This whole idea of a unifying element
That's so important.
is so intriguing.
It really is the key
Yeah.
to achieving that cohesive blend that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And that unifying element doesn't have to be a pattern.
Right.
It could be a specific color,
Yeah.
a shared material,
Right.
or even an overarching theme that runs throughout the space.
So it's like a guiding principle.
It is.
It makes sure that all these different elements are working together
Mhm.
to tell a cohesive story.
Of that.
Yeah.
It's like a conductor leading an orchestra,
Ooh, like that.
bringing all the different instruments together
Yeah.
to create this harmonious symphony of design.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get too carried away with our
Yeah.
symphony, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. This idea of layering
Yes.
old and new elements
Layering is so important.
to create depth and interest.
It is.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so layering is all about creating this sense of visual richness and complexity
Okay.
by combining different textures, materials, and styles.
Okay.
It's about thinking in terms of layers,
Mm-hmm.
much like an artist builds up a painting.
Yeah.
So you might start with a vintage rug as your base layer,
Okay.
then add a modern coffee table,
Yeah.
and then top it with like a stack of vintage books and a contemporary sculpture.
So each layer kind of builds upon the one before it,
Exactly.
creating this really unique and personal space.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. But I'm also thinking like
Yeah.
layering could go really wrong really
You
easily
could.
if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
So how do we prevent it from becoming just a cluttered mess?
You have to be really intentional with your choices
Okay.
and create a sense of balance within each layer. Think about the visual weight of each element
Okay.
and how it relates to the others.
So give me an example.
Okay, so a heavy vintage trunk might need to be balanced with lighter, more delicate modern accessories.
So it's not just throwing a bunch of random items together.
No,
It's about creating a thoughtful composition
it is.
where each element has a role to play.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, layering isn't just about big furniture pieces.
Okay.
You can also layer through smaller decor items,
Oh, right.
like throw pillows, blankets, artwork, and even plants.
Those little details can make a big difference.
They can.
I have a confession.
Oh, I love confessions.
I tend to overthink things.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like a chronic overthinker,
Same.
especially when it comes to design.
I get it.
And I get so caught up in trying to make everything perfect
Yeah.
that I sometimes lose sight of the fun
You gotta have fun with it.
and the creativity
Sure,
of
and
the process.
Remember, that's what's most important.
You're right.
Trust your instincts and have fun.
That's such good advice.
And enjoy the process.
Okay. I think this is the perfect place to take a little pause.
Okay.
Reflect on what we've learned so far. I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
And when we come back,
Yes.
we'll be talking about uncovering your personal design style.
I can't wait.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back
See you soon.
after the break. So, we were talking about creating this space that feels like you.
Right, like authentically you.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's really the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like making your home a reflection of your own taste and personality.
Yes.
Yes.
Not just like a copy of something you saw in a magazine or on, whatever social media you're on.
Right, exactly. And the stuff that you guys sent in
Yeah.
doesn't like give a step-by-step guide to uncovering your personal style,
Right.
but it does offer some really good insights.
Yeah, it does.
So let's kind of unpack those.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
I think the first thing that really jumps out at me
Yeah.
is this emphasis on self-expression.
Yeah.
You know?
Like really trust your instincts.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to kind of let your personality shine through.
So it's about quieting those outside voices.
Yes.
Like the trends,
Oh, the trend.
all the expectations,
Right.
what other people are doing.
And what you think you should be doing.
Yeah, and just tuning into what makes you happy.
Yes, exactly. And this kind of ties into another theme that I saw,
Okay.
which is personal history.
Oh, yeah?
Like mixing vintage and contemporary decor can be a way to like weave your own story into your living space.
Right. It's like incorporating those pieces that have meaning.
Exactly.
They tell a story.
It's like a visual autobiography.
Ooh. I like that.
You know, and a practical step to do that
Okay.
might be to like take a little trip down memory lane.
Oh, fun.
You know, look at photos of places you've lived, trips you've taken, objects that hold sentimental value.
Yeah.
What are the common threads?
Oh, that's good.
What colors, textures, styles keep popping up?
It's like you're creating a mood board, but
Yeah.
of your life.
And of your life, of your experiences.
I love that.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you start to see those patterns, you can start to translate them into your design.
Uh-huh.
So are you drawn to like warm, earthy tones or cool minimalist palettes?
Yeah.
Do you love ornate details or clean, simple lines?
It's about identifying those preferences and then like bringing them into your home.
Exactly.
This is making me think about my own apartment.
Yeah.
I've always been drawn to like vintage bohemian style
Oh, fun.
with its eclectic mix of textures and patterns.
I love that.
But I also like really appreciate the functionality and the simplicity of
Yeah.
modern design.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's about finding that marriage.
It's a beautiful marriage.
Yeah, between those two.
I love that.
And aesthetics.
That's a great starting point.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a journey,
Mm.
not a destination.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to experiment and try different things out
Okay.
until you land on what feels right.
This is where I get a little hesitant.
I get it.
I'm afraid of making a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what if I end up with a space that looks just weird?
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's understandable,
Yeah.
but one of the best things that the sources you sent emphasized
Yeah.
is trial and error.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's okay
Yeah.
to make mistakes.
So it's like giving yourself permission to play,
Exactly.
to try things out.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't work.
And if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
try something else.
And that's okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can start small.
Okay.
You don't have to like redo your whole house.
Right.
Just try adding like one vintage piece
Okay.
to a modern room
Okay.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
Just see how it feels.
It's like conducting a little experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember all those things we talked about, you know,
The color palette,
color palette,
proportions.
textures,
Yeah.
all that.
Those are like our tools.
Those are your tools.
Our roadmap.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I've done all that.
You've done your homework.
Yeah, I've done my homework.
You've done the soul searching.
Yeah.
You've experimented.
Yeah, what's the next level?
Okay, so this is the aha moment
Okay.
that I really loved in the sources.
Okay.
Remember that unifying element we talked about?
Yes. The thing that ties it all together.
That's what's going to take it to the next level.
Okay, remind me what that is.
Yeah, so it's like a recurring color, a specific pattern, a shared material,
Uh-huh.
or even like a theme
Okay.
that runs throughout the space.
Okay.
So it's like that common thread
Yeah.
that weaves its way through all the different elements
Yeah.
and creates this sense of harmony.
Oh, okay, give me some examples.
Okay, so let's say the unifying element is the color gold.
Okay.
You might have vintage picture frames with ornate gold detailing,
Okay.
a modern lamp with a sleek, brushed gold base,
Yeah.
even a contemporary abstract painting with gold leaf accents.
Oh, wow. So all those gold accents
Yeah.
create that connection.
They create that through line.
Yeah, even though the pieces themselves are from different eras.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or imagine a space where the unifying element is a geometric pattern.
Okay.
You might have a vintage rug
Yeah.
with a bold geometric motif.
Yeah.
And then that's echoed in the throw pillows on a modern sofa,
Yeah.
and even in the wallpaper on an accent wall.
So that repetition of that pattern
Yes.
creates that visual dialogue
Yes, it does.
between old and new.
It makes it feel cohesive
Yeah.
and intentional.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. And you can really do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
It could be subtle or bold, you know.
Right. It's about what feels right to you.
Exactly.
For your space.
Exactly.
This unifying element really transforms the space.
It does.
Like it's the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's that extra layer of thoughtfulness
Yeah.
that elevates the design.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing that I think is so important,
Okay, what's that?
and I think we forget about it a lot.
Okay.
You got to have fun.
Oh, that's so true.
Don't get so caught up in the rules
Yeah.
and the trends.
Right.
You got to remember the joy and the creativity
Yes.
that comes with design.
Designing your space should be fun.
It should be fun.
Yes.
It should be joyful,
Not stressful.
not stressful.
Yeah.
Embrace the experimentation,
Yeah.
the trial and error,
Right.
the unexpected discoveries, you know?
Yeah, and like you were saying before, it's a journey.
It is.
So our style's gonna keep evolving.
Exactly.
So just stay curious and stay true to yourself.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
journey of self-discovery
It is.
and creative expression.
I love it.
I think we've covered a lot today.
Do you think we have?
When we come back,
Yeah.
we'll talk about some practical tips and tricks for successfully blending vintage and contemporary decor.
Okay, let's do it.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
I'm excited for this part.
Me too. We've talked about, the challenges, the strategies, uncovering our own personal style.
Right.
Now it's time to bring it all together.
Yeah, like how do we actually do this?
Yeah, how do we create a space that reflects this beautiful blend of vintage and contemporary?
We've talked about all the key concepts.
Yeah.
Layering, balancing proportions.
Minding the details.
Minding the details.
That's are all so important for success.
Yeah.
Let's start with layering.
Okay.
I get the concept of, combining these items to add depth.
Right.
But how do we do it without it looking like a cluttered mess?
Yeah, you don't just want to like pile things on top of each other.
No.
It's really about creating a visual story,
Okay.
So each layer should like contribute to that overall narrative you're trying to create.
Okay.
So think about how the textures, the colors, the patterns all kind of interact.
Okay.
So you might start with like a vintage rug,
Yeah.
grounding the space with like history and texture.
Okay.
And then you introduce like a modern coffee table with clean lines.
Yeah.
As like a counterpoint.
Okay.
And then you top it with like a stack of vintage books and a contemporary sculpture.
So each element is playing its own part,
It is.
but they all work together.
Exactly.
Okay, what about balancing proportions?
Yeah. So important.
How does that work when we're mixing different time periods?
It's all about visual weight.
Okay.
You don't want one era to just totally dominate the space.
Right.
So like imagine a grand antique dining table,
Yeah.
to prevent it from just being like too much.
Yeah.
You could pair it with sleek modern chairs.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or you could flank a minimalist fireplace
Yeah.
with a pair of like vintage armchairs
Yeah.
to create like symmetry and balance.
It's about finding that equilibrium
It is.
where each piece complements the others
Exactly.
without taking over.
And it goes beyond just the size.
Mm.
Think about the style too.
Yeah.
Like a very ornate vintage piece
Yeah.
might need like a simple contemporary counterpart
Right.
to make sure it's not too busy.
Okay. I love vintage hardware
Me too.
and fixtures,
Yeah.
but I find that they sometimes clash with the modern elements.
Right.
What do I do?
Look for commonalities even if they're subtle.
Okay.
So if your vintage doorknobs have a brass finish,
Yeah.
try incorporating like brass accents
Okay.
into modern pieces.
Like a lamp or
Yeah, or a picture frame.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it creates a connection
a subtle connection.
without being too matchy-matchy.
But what if I want to highlight the contrast
Oh yeah, sometimes you do.
between the vintage and the contemporary?
Yeah, contrast can be really cool.
Okay, how do we do that?
So think about like a sleek, modern sofa
Uh-huh.
with vintage throw pillows,
Okay.
but like in a bold graphic pattern.
Okay.
So it creates this juxtaposition
Right.
that really highlights each piece.
And adds that visual interest.
Yes.
So contrast can be good.
It can be great
Okay.
if it's done right.
So it's about layering.
Yes.
It's about balance.
Yeah.
It's about those details.
It's about telling a story.
But beyond all of that,
Yeah,
there's something else.
that's right.
That I think is so important.
The sources talked a lot about it.
What is it?
Trust your instincts.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to break the rules.
Exactly. It's your space.
Yeah.
Make it your own.
If I love a piece,
Yeah.
I should incorporate it,
Put it in there.
even if it doesn't
Yeah.
fit the,
Exactly.
script.
Sometimes the best designs
Yeah,
are the ones that are totally unexpected.
right.
That's what makes it unique.
It's about letting our personality shine through.
And remember, it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah,
So our style's going to keep changing.
yeah,
We're going to find new things we love.
yeah.
So stay curious, stay playful.
Stay true to yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Me too.
So, as you go on your own vintage and contemporary design adventures,
Yeah.
remember to have fun.
Have fun.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Let your personality shine through.
I love it.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of mixing vintage and contemporary decor.
I hope you guys got some good ideas.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, happy decorating.